and said, listen, if he's going to be kind enough to want to play, then Andrew will play.
Yes, that's fair.
And he says, let's play, we'll play. But it's not us, it's nothing to do with him.
No, of course it's nothing to do with him. No, I understood it completely, understood exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah, because if it's anything near him,
I do not want to get anybody in trouble.
but you will be his friend.
Right.
I will listen to the friendship talk between you two.
Right.
And then I do it.
Okay.
You two talk,
Right.
I listen.
Okay.
Then I activate.
Right.
On to the next thing. £500,000 when you can, to me, open doors.
New Prince Andrew.
Yeah.
Is ideal.
Yeah.
There are two kinds of secrets in this world. Some are buried because nobody ever finds them. And then there are the dangerous ones, the kind that stay buried because everyone involved silently agrees to protect them. And inside the royal world, silence is never accidental. Silence is a choice, a strategy, a shield. For years, there was one story that hovered around the royal family like a shadow that never quite disappeared. It was never officially denied, never corrected, never laughed off. No lawsuits, no dramatic statements, no urgent cleanup. It was simply ignored. And in royal life, that's when you know something is different. Because when something is truly false, it's shut down instantly. But when silence stretches for years, it usually means one thing: someone powerful wants it buried. At the center of that silence was Sarah Ferguson. Fergie, a woman who didn't just brush against royalty, she lived inside it. She heard the story early. She knew the details. And yet she never rushed to deny it. Not once. She didn't protect it with words. She protected it with absence. And in a world built entirely on appearances, absence speaks louder than denial ever could. This wasn't small gossip. This wasn't tabloids inventing drama for clicks. This story involved a private yacht, a royal prince, and a woman who would later become a duchess. 3 days, total isolation. And a consequence that allegedly followed, one that could have changed everything long before the public ever knew her name. This story was never meant to surface. It was sealed carefully, deliberately, and for a long time, it worked, until silence stopped serving everyone involved. Because when the person who protected the quiet no longer benefits from keeping it, the past doesn't stay buried. It demands to be heard. And that's where this truly begins. To understand why this silence matters, you have to understand who Sarah Ferguson really is. Not the caricature the tabloids created, but the woman shaped by decades inside royal life. Fergie didn't need lessons on privilege or access. She married into it. She survived it. And more importantly, she understood Prince Andrew's world long before the public ever questioned it. She knew the environments he preferred. She knew the circles he moved through. She knew yacht culture not as fantasy, but as routine. These weren't mysterious, glamorous spaces to her. They were familiar, normal. So when later stories surfaced involving yachts, elite guests, and carefully controlled privacy, Fergie wasn't shocked. She recognized the pattern because she had lived alongside it for years. And that's what makes her silence so telling. Inside royal dynamics, silence is management. It's how uncomfortable truths are handled without confrontation. If everyone benefits from not talking, then nobody talks. And for a long time, that balance held. Fergie stayed close enough to remain protected, the institution stayed intact, and certain stories stayed sealed. But silence only works while it's useful. Eventually, the balance shifted. Protection faded. Loyalty weakened. And when someone who understands the full picture stops playing their role, silence becomes dangerous. Fergie's quiet was never passive. It was strategic. And when strategy changes, the story changes with it. Years after that silence was set in place, another figure entered the royal orbit. Someone the public believed was brand new to this world, Meghan Markle. To most people, she appeared suddenly, an actress, an outsider, a woman stepping into royalty for the first time. But to Fergie, this wasn't a new story. It felt like an old one resurfacing. Meghan didn't enter royal life blindly. She had already moved through elite spaces. She had already dated within powerful circles. She already understood proximity, status, access, and that mattered. Later, Meghan told a story about meeting Prince Andrew for the first time. She claimed she didn't recognize him, that she thought he was just a man holding the Queen's handbag. To the public, it sounded charming. awkward, almost funny. To Fergie, it sounded impossible. Andrew was never invisible, never insignificant, and certainly not someone easily overlooked, especially by someone who later married directly into the royal family. That kind of language serves a purpose. When people need to erase familiarity, they rewrite beginnings, they soften memories, they create distance, and distance is usually needed when something existed before the official timeline. To Fergie, this wasn't about confusion. It was about separation, drawing a clean line between past proximity and present convenience. Because once Meghan entered the royal story through a different door, the past stopped being harmless. It became a liability. And that's when silence stopped being enough. Because when proximity returns, history follows. And buried stories don't stay buried forever. To understand what happened next, you have to rewind, not just in time, but in setting. February 2002, the south of France. Off the coast of Nice. Not a crowded party boat, not a floating nightclub, a private yacht. And that detail matters because private yachts are controlled environments. No strangers, no accidental encounters. Everyone knows who everyone is and why they're there. According to the account passed quietly, Prince Andrew arrived as a VIP guest. Meghan Markle was already on board, part of the social group. At first, nothing seemed unusual until Andrew arrived. Then the dynamic shifted. Attention moved quickly, not subtly, not slowly. Meghan was allegedly positioned beside Andrew, not circulating, not drifting, but staying close. Observers noticed because it disrupted the natural flow of the group. Then came the withdrawal. According to the account, the two went below deck. They didn't reappear casually. They didn't rejoin the group after a short absence. Meals were allegedly delivered privately. Time passed. Hours turned into days. For several days, they remained separate from the rest of the guests. And when they finally emerged, something had changed. The atmosphere wasn't the same. The ease was gone. The energy felt heavier, quieter. People noticed, people talked. And even without a public scene, moments like that imprint themselves. They don't fade. For Fergie, this wasn't shocking. It fit a pattern she already understood. But what matters most isn't what happened on the yacht, it's what happened after. When the yacht returned to shore, the story didn't end. According to the account, contact continued. Conversations, communication. A sense, at least on one side, that something meaningful had begun. Then Andrew returned to London, and everything stopped. Calls went unanswered, messages ignored. This wasn't drifting apart. It was a cutoff. Eventually, it became procedural. Staff allegedly instructed to block contact entirely. Doors closed. In royal life, distance isn't emotional. It's administrative. According to the account, attempts to reach Andrew became urgent, repeated. Something was wrong. Something needed to be communicated. And then comes the part that explains everything. According to the account passed on, Meghan believed she was pregnant. If true, this would have been catastrophic, not just personally, but institutionally. A child connected to Prince Andrew outside marriage, outside planning, outside control. That kind of reality cannot be managed quietly. And yet, the response was silence. No acknowledgement, no conversation, no engagement. Eventually, according to the account, the pregnancy did not continue. After that, contact ceased completely. No closure, just distance. Whether every detail is true or not, this explains the silence that followed. It explains resentment. It explains why certain relationships curdled beneath the surface. Andrew would have every reason to ensure this never surfaced. The institution would have every reason to bury it. And Meghan would have every reason to rewrite her future. No photos, no paperwork, only memory. And memory is dangerous when proximity returns. This isn't a clash of opposites, it's a collision of mirrors. Fergie and Meghan share instincts, status, access, understanding how relationships become currency. People are useful until they aren't. The difference wasn't character, it was timing. Fergie learned the rules the hard way, through loss, scandal, survival. Meghan assumed the rules would always bend in her favor, and that assumption is where everything fractured. Because when two people built on the same instincts fall out, the fallout isn't emotional, it's destructive. The moment Meghan chose distance over diplomacy, she didn't just step away from an ally, she activated a witness. Fergie didn't need photos, she didn't need sworn statements, she lived close enough to understand patterns. Andrew's habits, the environments, the managed silences. For years, silence benefited everyone. Now it doesn't. And when someone with memory, motive, and nothing left to lose stops protecting the quiet, secrets don't whisper, they resurface. And that is the truth the royal family has always feared most. And when those secrets resurface, they don't arrive neatly or politely. They come back twisted with time, resentment, and unfinished business. Because silence doesn't erase memory, it sharpens it. Every unanswered call, every closed door, every moment of being deliberately ignored becomes a scar. And scars don't fade quietly. They harden. What makes this entire situation so unsettling is not just the allegation itself, but how perfectly it explains the emotional undercurrent that has always existed. The tension, the coldness, the subtle hostility masked as politeness. When people talk about vibes or energy inside royal interactions, this is what they're sensing. History that was never resolved, only suppressed. Think about it. When someone believes they were discarded at the moment they were most vulnerable, that wound doesn't disappear just because years pass. It reshapes ambition. It reshapes identity. It turns survival into strategy. Reinvention becomes necessary, not optional. And suddenly, moving forward isn't just about love or titles, it's about control, about never being powerless again. That's why the rewriting of narratives matters so much, why certain introductions are softened, why familiarity becomes I didn't recognize him, why proximity becomes coincidence, because admitting awareness would mean admitting history, and admitting history would mean admitting pain. Inside the royal machine, pain is inconvenient. It doesn't fit into press schedules or public duties, so it gets buried under protocol, under silence, under people who agree not to ask questions. Until one day, the people who benefited from that silence stop benefiting at all. Sarah Ferguson understands that better than almost anyone. She knows what it feels like to be tolerated instead of protected, to be kept close but never fully safe, to be useful until you're not. And once you cross that line, once the institution stops shielding you, the incentive to protect its secrets disappears with it. That's the danger here. Not proof, not documents, but memory, lived experience, pattern recognition, the kind that doesn't need receipts because it understands the system too well to be fooled by surface explanations. And that's why this story lingers even without confirmation, because it fits too neatly into everything that followed. The resentment, the defiance, the refusal to play by rules that once caused so much harm. When people say, why does this feel personal? This is why. Because if even fragments of this are true, then it was always personal. What we're really watching isn't random fallout. It's delayed impact. It's the echo of something that was never allowed to be acknowledged. And echoes don't fade, they repeat, growing louder each time someone tries to pretend they aren't there. So the question isn't whether the past matters. It's whether the people who buried it are prepared for what happens when silence finally stops protecting them. Because when stories survive this long without dying, it usually means they're waiting, not to be proven, but to be understood. And once that understanding spreads, control becomes impossible to reclaim. Becomes impossible to reclaim. Becomes impossible to reclaim. Becomes impossible.